Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Croc Master and Fiona. Now, you guys know I'm not the biggest G.I. Joe fan. I was born just a little bit too late to really get into it, but I did watch it as a kid, and if memory serves, that's Croc Master and that's Fiona. Just throwing that out there. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. And you guys know I have reviewed some G.I. Joe Classified Series in the past. I don't do them a ton just because I'm not that into it. Luckily, Hasbro sent me a batch of these for their Yo Joe June thingy that they have going on and said I can review them if I want to. So I am. Of course, everything I say is going to be unfiltered, untethered. I can say whatever I want, of course, or I wouldn't be doing it. And like I said, I didn't even have to review them. They just said, we're going to send them if you want them. I said, sure, and I can do it if I want to. So I am. And it's a pretty cool figure. It's a good wave, or it's a good line. I have generally been pretty positive about this line since its inception. And they make Marvel Legends look even worse, unfortunately, and that's what I review most of the time, which is kind of a bummer. But good figures overall. Is this one any good? It's decent. There's some good stuff and some bad stuff. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about, let's say, 16.75 centimeters, and that's going to make him pretty close to, we'll say, 6 5/8 inches. So he does have a little bit of height to him. A lot of new sculpt work on this guy. I don't collect all of these, obviously, but I know at least some of these parts are definitely new to him. I'm guessing most of them, probably not like the biceps and shoulders and that kind of thing. I'm thinking they're probably the same as Roadblock if I had to guess, but this part probably is new. Most of it is. Okay, so let's do a quick question of the day. Who's your favorite G.I. Joe character? That should be fun. For me, it used to be Roadblock. When I was a kid, I loved Roadblock. He was my favorite by far. Then it went to Snake Eyes, and I think I've settled on Storm Shadow, strictly from character designs. Ooh, actually, when I was a kid, I had a G.I. Joe figure of Firefly, and he was one of my favorites also. I don't know, I can't pick. Like I said, I'm not that big into Joe, but as a kid, I really liked a lot of the characters. I'll go with Storm Shadow just to keep it clean. Solid white, can't beat a solid white ninja. Pretty cool. Okay, let me know who you guys like. Let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic. First thing I want to talk about is the back of the package and the Crocodile. This is the thing that bothers me the most about this whole set, which should tell you something because it's not that big of a deal. But see where the collar part is wrapped around the crocodile's neck? It's behind the jaw, so the jaw kind of sticks out a little bit and it's kind of back farther. The way they sculpted this Crocodile, you can't do that, and it drives me nuts. I'm just going to get this out of the way right off the bat, and then we'll get into the rest of it. But the way this goes over his head, it's like it's pinching on his jaw. I don't like the way that is. I don't know if this was like I can't imagine they already had this sculpted for some other purpose, and then they just added it to this set. They had to make this for this guy. But the way this doesn't go behind the jaw drives me freaking nuts, and he doesn't have a big enough forehead eye area also. But other than that, it's kind of cool. Okay, we'll get back to that, but I want to talk about this guy first. Let's talk about the aesthetic, and then we'll get to the accessories and the Crocodile. This guy looks freaking cool. Like, I don't care about the Crocodile aesthetic. That's a pretty gimmicky thing, but G.I. Joe characters tend to have that. It's just well done. Having the shaded crocodile belly type thing on his chest with the sculpted, are they scales? I guess they would be, right? No, they're not scales. What would you call that? What do you call that on a crocodile? Any of you crocodile fans out there know what you call it? Is it just skin? I don't know what that is. Never really thought about it. Anyway, you have that texturing throughout, and it looks really, really nice. They did a tighter pattern down here for the abs. Good idea. Looks really cool. We have some of that over here as well. That's kind of cool. His boots, are they made out of crocodile? Because that seems counterintuitive for somebody who likes crocodiles, presumably. Or maybe he hates them, and that's why he makes his armor out. I don't know. But either way, it looks really cool. Paint job on the Cobra logo up there, very nice. It's pretty clean paint job around where the tank top vest thingy is. The skin paint on there matches the plastic well enough, so that's good. The face, the silver part's a separate piece, so it's super clean. The eyes are painted well. Decent amounts of molded plastic throughout. The paint that's on there is really nicely done. Even that little red bit back there is done. Like, this is so much nicer than we get to see on other Hasbro products at the same price point. And you can make the argument, well, that's because it's G.I. Joe and it doesn't cost as much to make. Sure, but hey, I'm paying the same thing and getting way more for my money out of this line. that means there's a problem. I don't feel satisfied with the Marvel figures. This makes me feel satisfied as far as cost goes, so that's worth mentioning. Now, as far as the legs, there's really no paint or anything going on. We do have texturing a little bit going on over here, none here. I don't know, is this whole leg textured? It doesn't look like it's supposed to be. Maybe there's some kind of mold defect on mine. This all looks textured right here when it should just be over here. So I'm wondering if that's a mold defect. It actually looks to me like whoever made this sculpt applied the texture, the surface noise, like they're supposed to over here, like they applied it to the whole area. Didn't mask off this section of the pants and just did it over here when they were doing the UVs. Maybe, I don't know, that's what it looks like. He's textured over here where he shouldn't be as far as I can tell. But otherwise the pants look nice, the boots look nice. We do have holsters and things that are textured to have the crocodile look on them. He does have the heavier sculpt back here to look like the crocodile back. I really enjoy this figure. It's like the corny G.I. Joe villain type character design, but it's so well executed, it's fun. These collectibles should be fun, and these are so much more fun compared to, say, the Marvel figures, which is just so disappointing for a Marvel fan. I could like Marvel way more than G.I. Joe, but this is such a better figure. Aesthetically speaking, let's talk about the proportions. They're good. They're not like perfect, super wonderful, but there's nothing that stands out as terrible. Like, they're fine. I don't know if it looks as heroic, or I guess I should say superhero. Nope. What would be the word? Comic-esque? I don't know how to describe it. Let me just grab the box and show you. He's got a much more defined comic book type build, like much tinier waist, bigger shoulders, bigger chest. But this figure does a pretty dang good job of looking good. So this guy's like a 9 out of 10 for me. It's really well put together. There's nothing that needs to be done. There are things that could be done better or added to it or whatever, but very, very pleased with the way this looks. Reviewing these G.I. Joe figures is making me sad because the Marvel Legends are so much less fun than these. Look at it, it's so much better looking, so much more fun. Okay, let's talk about the Crocodile before we get into the rest of the accessories. It's pretty good. Like, you're obviously paying for it, but it's still just an accessory crocodile, and they did a good job. We're gonna start with the tail. It has a big ball peg back here, which I don't love because obviously that looks weird. There's not much they could have done about that. So use that at your own discretion. I don't care for it too much. But it is relatively soft and bendy. Most of the bend is going to happen from like here back because it's too thick. I'm not going to say it. So that's a little bit iffy, but it's good enough. And right here is where the wire ends. And this is a little bit warped from the packaging. So if you bend it this way, it'll look better. So that's a little bit of a bummer that you have some limitations. But it does work. Overall, it's not great, but it's definitely good enough for like a crocodile that's just going to sit on the shelf. It's not like you're doing anything crazy with it. So that's fine. The paint job is not great. It's not super consistent. Real jagged over here, pretty straight over here, unless that's how it's supposed to be. I don't know about crocodiles. It's good. Some shading into the darker green up here. That's fine. The sculpt is good, texture-wise and all that. The legs are on a ball peg. They move around pretty well. In and out, just fine. More painting on the inside. The ankles are like straight up ankles. We have the full hinge and the swivel, so you can pose those around pretty well. Same thing for the arms, ball peg at the shoulder, if you want to call it that, and then full on ankle type joint or wrist type joint in there, so that's pretty cool. We get a big ball peg in here that lets the whole thing move around. That works really well. I like that a whole bunch, up and down as well. You can technically rotate it if you want to. Then we have the same type of joint for the neck, so if you want to do both, you can get extra curve, or you can do a little bit like that, make him look kind of S-shaped. Up and down, pretty good. Rotation, jaw opens up really nicely. Not in love with the two tones of pink. I mean, maybe that's accurate. I don't know, again, that much about crocodiles, but it looks a little weird, but it's still pretty good. My biggest gripe is just the way they sculpted his head. He's got like a little peanut head up here, and it doesn't look like it has the right shape here. Like, I don't get any of the jaw. There's just kind of no jaw, and then when you put the collar on, it looks even goofier. So that does bother me. But for a crocodile, air quote, accessory, it's pretty good. His chain thing is relatively cheap looking because of the bulky chain here, but it's fine. It's painted well enough, and the guy can hold it. So that part's cool. Let's get into the rest of the accessories. We have a whip, which is not bendy or anything, but it has a painted handle and it looks okay. We get a knife, kind of like a Rambo knife that can go into his sheath on his ankle. That's pretty cool. We get a Chiappa Rhino pistol, which is one of the ugliest pistols ever to be made. You guys can fight about that in the comment section below if you know what I'm talking about. I hate them. Some people like them, but that's relatively well done. Solid black, fits in the holster nicely. We get his little meat hook, which is kind of a cool accessory. I like that. And then we get two little baby crocodiles that have some decent paint on them for what they are and some pretty cool sculpt. So other than the crocodile, it's not a ton of stuff, but it's definitely a good array of accessories. And I mean, I guess technically it's a 2-pack, and the crocodile is its own figure, but also it's an accessory. I'm going to go 9 out of 10 for accessories. Paint the rhino, the pistol, and I'd be happy. But it's a good batch of accessories for sure. And this costs as much, by the way. I want to say it's like a couple dollars cheaper than the Marvel Legends 20th Anniversary Hulk. And this is a full-on figure with a crocodile and a bunch of accessories. So you guys can value it out however you want, but to me this is a good value. Okay, let's talk about the articulation. We have double ball peg in the neck and a ball peg in the, I should say in the top of the neck for the double ball peg, and a single ball peg in the bottom of the neck. Neck itself doesn't want to move all that much, which seems to be the case for all of these figures. I wish it did work better, but it doesn't. But you still get pretty good range out of that double ball peg. They could still work on refining their articulation. Even though they're doing the right things in a lot of cases, it's still not quite there. So you would have better range if they did that, but it's pretty good. And this this moves around or unpegs if you want to. I don't think you would want to unpeg it, but it does wiggle around if you need a little bit of extra range, so that's okay. For the shoulders, you do get a butterfly joint that is, unless mine's just stuck and also looks useless, it is just useless. So that's kind of a bummer. It does hurt the sculpt. Not as much on this guy because of his character design, but that butterfly joint just doesn't do anything. I don't get it. I mean, even if it could move, there's nowhere for it to go because the shoulder's already touching the body, so I don't really get that at all. You get your full rotation there, bicep swivel, that's fine. Double jointed elbow works pretty well. He's got some thick wrist thingies, so there's some limitation there, but it's not too bad. The wrist things do rotate, though there's really no need for them to. And then you do get the wrist swivel and a hinge. He has the wrong hinges on his hands. Are these hands stolen from another figure, by the way, like Roadblock or somebody? Before they started doing the vertical hinges like we saw on Storm Shadow and Baroness? I don't get it. That's bad. That's the wrong hinge. It should be a vertical hinge, but it's not. For the torso, the ab crunch goes pretty far back. It's not great. It's not sculpted down here, and it doesn't have much range, I guess. I guess it's okay. It's one notch, but it has decent range. Sculpt work is iffy as far as the actual articulation goes. Going forward, barely any range going forward. This is a bad ab crunch. It looks okay in the neutral, but it's not well implemented as far as actual articulation, and it's wiggly. So that's a bad ab crunch. For the ball peg down here, you get a bit of lean going forward and back. I'm trying to just show you the ball peg. There you go. That's pretty good. And then of course you get some sideways, which is nice. I like that. And you get your rotation. So yeah, it's not, this part's not bad. This part is really bad. It's not a good ab crunch. So he's going to be basically straight up and down, unfortunately. We have the hinged ball pegs for the hips, so you can drop them down to get more range. You do get a little bit for like a high kick, sort of, but not really. This hip design is decent enough in theory, I guess, but it just doesn't need to exist. If you just make really good hips and put a little bit of flex in the diaper piece, you're set. You don't really need to do all that. They do go out to the side full on splits. That's a good thing. The holster is a separate piece, so you can move it as needed. But yeah, he's not going to get great range going forward because the hips just aren't designed that well. Like, that's it in the neutral without the hinge. And then if you use the hinge, oh wait, it's really the same thing. This one's not designed well, and they're a little floppy. So, and they do that. I don't like that. Doesn't work well. Doesn't kill the figure because you can just kind of ignore them even though they're a nuisance, but it's just not a great way to do hips, so don't do that. They don't go back at all. You do get your thigh swivel. Double jointed knee is really good on this guy, no problem there. Shin swivel is nice. Foot goes all the way back, that's good. And it goes really far forward, that's really good. Ankle rocker is solid enough, so other than the shoulders that don't really work, the ab crunch that doesn't really work, and the hips that aren't great, it's solid. This guy's going to get only a 6 out of 10 for articulation. Too many problems. Ab crunch is floppy and it doesn't work. Shoulder butterfly doesn't work. Hips are a little janky. Otherwise, it's fine. Like, it's not terrible. Luckily, the things that don't work aren't essential. Like, the ankles are really nice, so that's a big plus. But the hips being the way they are isn't great. and all of this is bad. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with 6 for the articulation. It could be much better. The head could be much better. It's not the strong point on this figure, which is understandable given the amount of paint and sculpt, so I'm personally okay with it. So now it's time for the final verdict on Croc Master. I want to keep saying Sheila, but that's the tank from Red vs. Blue, and this is the alligator from this guy, and its name is Fiona. So final verdict on this set, I think it's well worth the money. If you're into G.I. Joe stuff, or even just fun, unique figures, this is one to pick up for sure. It's very well done overall. I'm, as a collector, not a fan, I don't care about G.I. Joe. As a collector, I'm very pleased to own it. As a reviewer, it's pretty solid. I'm going to give it a final rating of 8.5 out of 10. I think it's pretty darn good. The articulation's not the best, but it's definitely good enough in other ways, and I'm going to enjoy having it. I think you guys will too, so if you want to track it down, I would encourage you to do so. It's a pretty good release. So thanks for watching, guys. If you want to leave a comment, please do. I will pin someone's comment. If you want to give it a thumbs up, I would like that. If you want to give it a thumbs down, that's okay too. Not the comment, the video. If you want to share the video, please do that. YouTube likes that a whole bunch nowadays, apparently. So do that even if you hated the video. You want to share it to all your friends and hate share it. That's fine. Go ahead. And if you want to subscribe, guys, I would recommend that too, because I do have new videos just about every single day, and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that, and in the meantime, keep collecting.